Welcome to Mountain Strong. One of the great blessings of living here in Anchorage is being able to experience nature. And one of the things I like to do to experience nature is simply to drive south. We have this beautiful highway called the Seward Highway, which connects Anchorage and the town of Seward, and it also branches off to go down to the Kenai Peninsula. It is a treasure trove of beautiful views, and I just stopped at the first place that looked interesting to me. It's not anything too amazing. This is actually the way station as you're coming north at a place called Potter's Creek. So nothing too special, but at the same time a truly beautiful view. Today we are going to be having a look at Psalm 20 together, Psalm 20, and let's go ahead and read that now. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. May he remember all your offerings and regard with favor your burnt sacrifices. May he grant your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. May we shout for joy over your salvation, and in the name of our God set up your banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with the saving might of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright. O Lord, save the King. May he answer us when we call. One of the benefits, if you can call it that, of studying at the graduate level in theology is being able to be exposed to a whole bunch of vocabulary words that you didn't know existed before. I think that these vocabulary words exist just to justify the idea of the graduate level. Anyway, one of these words is Schadenfreude, or you might hear a teacher simply say Schadenfreude. The word is a word that refers to a joy or delight that people have at the misfortune of others. And so sometimes when people have bad things happen to them, we can actually rejoice or be happy at that. Now that's not a good thing for us as God's people, whether it relates to the way that we feel at the peril of those who perish because of sin, or as we think about the context of the life of faith, being amongst God's people, when we think about how maybe our plan has not been the chosen plan, the plan of someone else has been accepted, and maybe we delight when their plan fails. Both of those things are not good. In fact, we are studying at South Anchorage, where I minister right now, the book of Ezekiel, and I was humbled to learn that the sin for which God brought destruction on the nation of Ammon in Ezekiel chapter 25 is that they looked at the destruction of the Israelites and said, aha, in other words, they rejoiced at their destruction. God doesn't want us to rejoice at the destruction of others, and he doesn't want us to rejoice when people fail. This psalm is the opposite of that. This psalm is actually people rejoicing at the success of others, and namely, from the standpoint of this psalm, rejoicing at the success of their king. Now, as we think about this from the standpoint of the New Testament, we need to realize that our king, of course, is Jesus. But we are a part of a kingdom of priests. And as we think about the success of Jesus, his success as the head of the church is tied to the body. And so it's good when fellow Christians succeed. It's good when they are advanced. And it's good for us to reflect on the thoughts that we have in this psalm. This psalm encourages us to rejoice at the success of others. Why should we do so? Well, there's two reasons why we should do so according to this psalm. In verse 3, he says, may he regard all your offerings and regard with favor your burnt sacrifices. The first reason we should want the success of others is because we're worshiping God together. And so God needs more success. He needs people to see his cause advanced so that worship can be expanded and extended to him. And so we're worshiping him, and that's important. And also because there is an enemy that needs to be defeated. In verse number 5, he says, may we shout for joy over your salvation, and in the name of our God set up banners. Every victory of God's people is a chance for the banner of Christ to be set over conquered territory. And when we think about conquered territory in the kingdom of Christ, what are we talking about? We're talking about souls who are edified. We're talking about souls who are saved. And so we want more of that. We want more success. And so it doesn't matter if our plan is the accepted plan. It doesn't matter if we get our way in the context of the community of faith. What matters is that the cause of Christ is advanced. And so what ought we to be asking for others and their plans within the context of the church? We should be asking for them security in verse 1. We should want the God of Jacob to protect them. We should want help and sustenance from God, as he says in verse 2. May he send help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. And we should want fulfillment of the plans of others. In verse 4, he says, may he grant your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. Again, we should be praying for the success of our fellow Christians and their plans, praying for the success of our church and what its leaders have selected to do. Now, what happens when we keep in mind what we're trying to do, worship God and advance the cause of God? What happens when we pray for success? Well, we can have confidence in the face of the future. He says in verse 6, now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. And of course, he's talking from the standpoint of the Old Testament. I know the Lord will save the King of Israel. And again, this is a prayer really of success for the King of Israel. But from the New Testament point of view, the Lord will save his Christ. The Lord will see that the church extends forward into the future and that it moves to future successes. We can have confidence in that fact. And we can have confidence in our God. In verse 7, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. And then therefore, because we have confidence in the Lord's anointed, our Christ, because we have confidence in the God that we serve, we can have confidence in the difference between us and the world around about us. In verse 8, they collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright. No greater contrast exists between God's people and the people of the world. And so again, this psalm is encouraging us to pray for the success of our fellow Christians. It's encouraging us to pray for the success of the church. When we pray, may the kingdom of Christ be advanced, may his name be glorified, and specifically when we pray, we need to pray so that the plans of our fellow Christians, the leaders of our congregations, the works of our brotherhood, so that all of these things can be advanced. And so in verse 9, O Lord, save the King. May he answer us when we call. I know my Lord will save the King. I know he will see that the cause of Christ moves forward, but I want as many people to move forward with it as is possible, and I'm sure you do as well. May God bless us as we learn to pray for each other and as we learn not to delight in others' misfortune, but to instead delight in others' success.